Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Jnana Timirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Nama Shreshtam Manavapi Shatchiputramatra Swarupam Rupam Tasya Gajamurupurim Maturim Goshtavatim Radha Kundam Girivaramaho Radhika Madhavasham Prapto Yasya Pratita Kripaya Shri Gurum Tamnatosmi Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Ataf Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavangscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhan Vitamscha Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. I plan to speak on a topic which, first of all, I said I would speak on at the beginning of the festival. But then I said I wouldn't speak on because Tirtha Maharaj is going to speak on the broad subject of feminism, and I didn't want to turn it into too much of a polemic festival. But as the festival is more or less over now, and I didn't expect so many of you to be here, I'll speak on it anyway. My position regarding the burning question of whether or not there should be female Diksha gurus in ISKCON, which is obviously the most important thing. It's not whether we should increase the book distribution and see how everyone is, how the whole preaching in the Western countries has largely gone to hell, but the most important thing is that we need to have female Diksha gurus, and then that's the thing which will cure all of ISKCON's problems, and the movement will flourish, and until that is introduced, it won't flourish. Well, you get an idea of my position right there, and anyway, you have an idea of my position even before we start. I thought I'd speak, actually I have given talks on this, but people tend to forget. So I'll speak on it again. And since I last directly addressed this question in a formal talk, there's been much ballyhoo, much water under the bridge, whether it's pure water or sewage water or whatever it is. And the question goes on. So I'll speak about it. Anyway, we're not the body, right? That's the first thing we learn in Krishna consciousness, is it? The first thing we learn is how to do yoga asanas. And the first thing we learn is that men and women are all equal. And maybe at some point in time, if you ever get around to reading Bhagavad Gita as it is, and listening to what Srila Prabhupada said, or if you ever hear his name mentioned, then we get to learn that we are not the body. And that in Krishna consciousness there should be no discrimination of race, on the basis of race, education. Of course, if you have a PhD, that makes you a very special devotee, but no, actually, there's no discrimination on race, education, educational level, caste, piety, gender, or any such thing. And it's very clear that Srila Prabhupada wanted to have female Diksha gurus, and I can even cite for you from his teachings regarding this point. I'm just going to below that. All right. This is a letter from the 3rd of January 1969 in which Srila Prabhupada is writing, or wrote, I want that all of my spiritual sons and daughters will inherit this title of Bhakti Vedanta, so that the family transcendental diploma will continue through the generations. Those possessing the title of Bhakti Vedanta will be allowed to initiate disciples. Maybe by 1975, all of my disciples will be allowed to initiate and increase the numbers of the generations. So there you go, there's one quote. Here is from a conversation that Srila Prabhupada had with Professor O'Connell in Canada. This is approximately 1976. Professor O'Connell asked Srila Prabhupada, is it possible, Swamiji, for a woman to be a guru in the line of disciplic succession? Srila Prabhupada, yes. Sounds pretty definite, doesn't it? Janava Devi was Nityananda's wife. She became, if she is able to go to the highest perfection of life, why is it not possible to become guru? But not so many. Actually, one who has attained the perfection, she can become guru. But man or woman, unless one has attained the perfection, Jai Krishna Tattaveta Shri Guru Hoy. The qualification of guru is that he must be fully cognizant of the science of Krishna. Then he or she can become guru. Jai Krishna Tattaveta Shri Guru Hoy. In our material world, is it any prohibition that woman cannot become professor? If she is qualified, she can become professor. What is the wrong there? She must be qualified, that is the position. So similarly, if the woman understands Krishna consciousness perfectly, she can become guru. So it's very clear, and then anyone who doesn't agree that women should become Diksha gurus, then obviously it's just sexism and misogyny, as was stated in a article in the Guardian newspaper recently by an ISKCON guru, that anyone who doesn't agree with the position that women should initiate is latent misogyny. Misogyny is a word which I learned, the word misogynist. I learned the word maybe about 20 years ago when I was called a misogynist. It's a common term now, but I learned it from certain persons who had perceived that I'm a misogynist, which means that I hate women. It's a very heavy statement to make in public about more than half the GBC, because the GBC keeps on voting against it. So it's obvious we shouldn't discriminate, but then it seems there is discrimination on the basis of gender in Krishna consciousness. Not just now in the good year of the Lord 2021. Wait a minute. Oh, that's my topic tomorrow, feminists in a time machine. Stand by for a magical mystery tour in a time machine. So it seems it's been there for a long, long time. In fact, sexism or discrimination on the basis of gender seems to be part of the tradition in Krishna consciousness and in the Vedic culture. And as a matter of fact, I did give a seminar on that a few years ago in Germany called Vaishnavism is Sexism. And it was basically a list of quotes from Shastra. And I went on, I think, for about 5 days, an hour at a time, just quoting all that. Now, here are some quotes from Srila Prabhupada. This is from Harishar Prabhu's Transcendental Diary, an entry from February 1976. The acceptance of sannyas has become so popular. I would edit that and say the desire to accept sannyas has become so popular recently that even some of the ladies are asking about it. Aditya Dasi sent an inquiry from Bombay. I am writing this letter on behalf of myself as well as the other women in our society. She's speaking for all the women in ISKCON, although I don't know if they all deputed her to do so. Sometimes the question has come up, but no one seems to know the real answer about sannyasinis. Sannyasini means female sannyasi. I know that sannyasi is the highest order of spiritual life. Therefore, is it not possible that we can be eligible? Myself, I do not feel like a woman, although I am in this body. Prabhupada's, that was the end of the quote. Prabhupada's reply was concise and clear. Quoting from Bhagavad Gita, he told her, the soul is neither man nor woman, and for those engaged in Krishna's service, there is no distinction between man and woman. Anyone acting for Krishna, he is a sannyasi or sannyasini. Spiritually, everyone is equal. But materially, a woman cannot be given sannyas. But you should not be bothered because you are serving on this spiritual platform. The spirit of sannyas is to do everything for Krishna, which was a definition that Krishna gives in Bhagavad Gita. Anashrita karma phalam karyam karma karoti yaha satsanyasi cha yogi cha naniragniya na chakriyaha. Krishna said, citing the general understanding of what it means to be a karma sannyasi, one who gives up the grihastha role in varnashram culture to accept sannyas. He no longer has any touch with fire. Fire is required in a Vedic grihastha's house. In an age where there are no matches or lighters, the fire has to be kept burning in the house all the time. You have a problem otherwise, right? If you want to light a fire and there are no matches or lighters, what do? Go to the store and buy some matches or lighters. But if there are no matches or light there in the store, you have to keep a fire burning. So the fire is kept burning for offering yagyas daily, which are required, and for cooking. But a sannyasi leaves home and he is Agehananda. When we saw that sannyasi, his name, German sannyasi, Agehananda, who takes pleasure in having no home. So and then he's no longer is concerned with the good and bad or pious and impious, the results of his karmic activities. By accepting sannyas, one is supposed to have come out of the regular cycle of karmic activities. So Krishna, citing that, says that a real sannyas is one who works according to his specific role in varnashram, but is not attached to the results. Not a person who simply, formally, officially gives up work and gives up fire. So that is the better or the intrinsic attitude of sannyas, of the highest sannyas. But formally, Srila Prabhupada wrote, formally, that means officially. Those who are in women's bodies, they do not accept sannyas. Here is another quote. In a discussion, Srila Prabhupada was asking disciples, what are the problems that people perceive are the major problems in the world? Of course, the major problems are birth, death, old age, and disease. But in the course of time, there are various problems arise. Just like if we ask in the United States at the present time, what are the major problems in the world? They'll say China, North Korea, Iran, Russia. Oh, Russia, of course, yeah, that goes without saying. And if we ask a member of the Democratic Party, what is America's greatest problem at the present time? They'll say Donald Trump. So there are various perceived problems, and Srila Prabhupada wanted to know what the materialistic people speak of as the major problems of the world at the present time, and Srila Prabhupada wanted to give the Krishna conscious solutions with the idea that a book could be written, Krishna conscious solves all problems. So Yogeshwara said to Srila Prabhupada, here's a problem, the women today want the same rights as men. How can they be satisfied? Srila Prabhupada, everything will be satisfied. Just like our women, Krishna conscious, they are working. They don't want equal rights with the men. It is due to Krishna consciousness. They are cleansing the temple, they are cooking very nicely, they are satisfied. They never said that, I have to go to Japan for preaching like Prabhupada. They never say. This is artificial. So Krishna consciousness means work in his constitutional position. The women, men, when they remain in their constitutional position, there will be no artificial, and then this, whatever Srila Prabhupada said at that point is blanked or indistinct due to loud traffic noise. So it seems that the question is not so clear that on one hand we are all spirit souls, we're all equal on the spiritual platform, but there are considerations, there are different roles, it appears, according to the body. Now why that should be that Srila Prabhupada put it succinctly here. Krishna consciousness means work in his constitutional position. And Srila Prabhupada pointed out at different times that just like, for instance, at the Battle of Kurukshetra, the 5 Pandavas were there, but Kunti and Draupadi weren't there. They didn't come to fight. They didn't come at all. Hare Krishna, please listen. You can get the recording afterwards. They were acting in their constitutional position. They didn't come to fight. Other considerations concerning Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada gave a list of 11 male disciples who were to conduct initiations on his behalf with the understanding, as I heard at the time, although that's contested now, that they should later initiate. He gave the name of 11 male disciples, not female disciples. He never made any women GBCs or temple presidents. And like Ritvikism, which is accepted within the ISKCON that we are in, because there is a whole Ritvik ISKCON, they say we are ISKCON. So the ISKCON that we are in, Ritvikism, is accepted as a heresy. So like Ritvikism, the idea that women should initiate came up many years after Srila Prabhupada had departed from this world. In other words, it wasn't clear, it wasn't obvious to everyone that Srila Prabhupada had said that no one should initiate after me. There should only be Ritvik initiations, which anyway, what they call Ritvik initiation is not. The Ritvik, he is not. Tamal Krishna Maharaj says, "Is that Ritvik?" And Prabhupada said, "Yes." But actually, the role of a Ritvik is not to perform initiation on behalf of someone else. Then this idea came up many years after Srila Prabhupada had departed from the world, which makes it suspect. And similarly, the idea that women should initiate came up. It came up later. So it's not so clear. There are questions about this. Now, although it might seem that statements like this of Srila Prabhupada, and indeed of the whole Vedic culture, which appears to, by today's standards of political correctness, the Vedic culture is highly sexist. It is highly discriminatory against women. In fact, most of the cultures all over the world have been. But we should know that the Vedic culture, of whom Srila Prabhupada was undoubtedly the main protagonist or the main promoter in recent times, that everything Srila Prabhupada did, everything in the Vedic culture is meant for the ultimate good of everyone. Sarve sukhino bhavantu is meant that everyone should be happy, not happy that they get whatever they want, just like children might want to drink. There's a bottle of poison, pink color. The children may want to drink it and think that will make me happy. But those who are in more in knowledge, they give rules and regulations for the children so that they can act in a manner which is actually for their benefit. So Srila Prabhupada and the whole Vedic culture, everything that Srila Prabhupada did and said was meant for our advancement in Krishna consciousness. It was meant to help us. It becomes difficult to explain for those who want to promote equal gender roles within Srila Prabhupada's society. There are many statements of Srila Prabhupada which make it very difficult for them to uphold that position. So it has been suggested that Srila Prabhupada was he was influenced, he was a pure devotee, but he was influenced by outdated, sexist, Victorian, Bengali sexual mores or norms, Hindu ideas, which is offensive to think that Srila Prabhupada was. He made such major statements and being influenced by some mundane ideas. There is a theory that, well, in the beginning Srila Prabhupada was very open and he treated men and women equally. Later, due to the influence of some nasty sannyasis, he became anti-women or something like this. I've addressed all such contentions in a book that I wrote called Women, Masters or Mothers, later renamed Mothers and Masters, which the GBC made 2 resolutions about, one of them stating more or less that it's doubtful if I'm representing Srila Prabhupada, although none of them at the time had read the book. They still haven't said what's wrong with it, just that they don't think it's in line with Srila Prabhupada. So there's some idea that Srila Prabhupada, being influenced by his sannyasis, he didn't want to discourage them, and therefore he let them make a sexist war against women and discriminate against women. There's some idea like that going on. But Srila Prabhupada wasn't scared to tell his disciples anything. Either that might seem pro-women or anti-women. He didn't think like that. We think like that. Srila Prabhupada thought of the good of everyone. One of the things he taught is matra swasra duhitra va na viviktasano bhavit balavan indriya gramo vidvangsang apikarshati. The whole principle of Vedic society is based on this understanding, or a major factor in Vedic society is based on the understanding that, or the principle given in this verse, which is in Srimad Bhagavatam and also in Manu Sanghita, that one should not sit very close to even to one's own mother, sister or daughter, because the senses are so powerful that they can agitate the mind even of a highly learned person. So the Varnashram system, which is meant for raising people to transcendence, it protects very carefully against male-female interaction. And you're here in Croatia, Christian country, Catholic country. No doubt your parents used to go to Mass, maybe some of them still do, every Sunday. And the men would be on one side and the women on the other. At least I used to get taken to Mass every Sunday. The men would be on one side and the women on the other. The men would have their heads uncovered and the women would have their heads covered. It was understood that there should be segregation between the sexes. It's not just in the Vedic culture, with the understanding that unrestricted mixing between men and women is a cause of degradation in human society, and therefore there should be separation, formal separation. A few years ago I gave a talk called "Illicit Sex is Very Bad," and I got a few appreciations from Muslims here and there in different parts of the world. They understand that principle, that the sexual energy is very powerful. It requires to be controlled. So anyway, I've discussed all these things in some detail in that book. I was going to talk about how Srila Prabhupada, he wasn't embarrassed or shy to tell his disciples in the matter of man-woman interaction. There was a letter from devotees saying that we don't want women to chant in the temple, japa. They should go somewhere else and chant. And Srila Prabhupada wrote back very strongly and said, if you want to go away from women, then what are you going to do? There are women all over the place. You can go to the forest, if you like, and chant, go and live in the forest. So he was very strong on that point. As far as the idea that Srila Prabhupada was somehow scared to discipline his disciples, well, Srila Prabhupada had some very, very strong-minded disciples who some of them would argue and fight with Srila Prabhupada. It's unimaginable. It's not to be imitated, and also it's not to be considered that those who did so are somehow fallen for doing so. Because I'm talking particularly about Tamal Krishna Maharaj, and there was also Harikesh, who was later his history was unfortunate, but Srila Prabhupada, although he was very heavy with him, at the same time he much appreciated him. So, but Srila Prabhupada didn't allow himself to be bullied around by even such strong-minded people as Tamal Krishna Goswami, or well, maybe it's the wrong word to say bullied around, but the fact is that Tamal Krishna Maharaj was a very strong-minded person. And even sometimes in dealings with Srila Prabhupada, not all the time by any means, but sometimes he expressed his opinion very strongly even to Srila Prabhupada. But Srila Prabhupada was not cowed by him. He was not intimidated by him. And even when Tamal Krishna Maharaj was, Srila Prabhupada removed him from the Radha Damodar party and sent him to China. At the time, sending someone to China was impossible. Americans in particular couldn't get a visa to go to China. It was closed off. It was possible to get visas to go to Russia, but not to China. It was completely closed off. So, but Srila Prabhupada angrily forced him to go. So I'm just citing that to make the point that Srila Prabhupada was not intimidated by his, by even very strong-minded sannyasi disciples. Now, if we think that this is discrimination against women, we may say, well, how can there be any good reason for discriminating against women? But actually, there are many good reasons for discriminating. Discrimination is the beginning of human life. An animal cannot think what is right or what is wrong. So discrimination is required. That discrimination means to say this is this and that is that and that's different. Now, that's just discrimination. But there's also the idea of discriminating against someone, to treat them as lesser or inferior on the basis of unfairly. For instance, to discriminate against Serbians because they're not Croatians. They're lesser beings because they are Serbians and not Croatians. That would be called discrimination against someone, or discrimination against lesbians, gays, bisexuals, transgenders, queers, and so on. That is considered discrimination against. Just because they have a different sexual orientation, you should not treat them differently. So that's called discrimination against. But actually, even to say lesbian, etc., that is discrimination, because it discriminates them from non-lesbians. As soon as you use a noun, you're discriminating. This is a watch. How is that discriminating? Well, it's discriminating in this, it gives very definite parameters of what it is. It's not a chimpanzee. It's not a pencil. It's not any one of zillions of things that exist in the world. It is specifically a watch. It's not even a clock. Why are you discriminating me just because I'm small? So there are very good reasons for discrimination. It's not discrimination against women, but it's discrimination for the benefit of all. As Srila Prabhupada mentions here, everyone has to act in their constitutional position. Now, we may say that, well, I want to join the basketball team, but I'm only 4'6" tall. So why discriminate against me? 4'6", what's that in meters? Not much. Less than 1.5 meters, considerably less than 1.5 meters. Huh?
The shortest NBA player was 152 centimeters.
The shortest NBA player was 152 centimeters. We have present among us ladies and gentlemen and bisexuals and lesbians and no, there are none here. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, a genius who can come up with facts and figures on the spot. Whoops, I just discriminate against all of you by calling him a genius. That means we're all nincompoops. Oh, we can't say anything now. I guess, what is that called when you just don't discriminate against it? It's called, what's it called? Mayavad. That's what it's called, right? When everything's all the same, right? Okay, the tallest was 152, the shortest was 152 centimeters, and the tallest was from Montenegro. Maybe. What's 150? What is that in feet and inches? Come on, tell me. Gene. About 5 feet. And they're still playing professional. Well, it's the shortest. And the average must be about just under 2 meters, or maybe 2 meters. Around 2 meters, yeah. So there are differences according to bodies, and there are very good reasons for discrimination, especially for children, because if we say that, well, everyone should have equal rights and the women should all go to work, well, who looks after the children? Mothers are women, amazingly, guess what, folks? Maybe I should do a scientific study and get a Nobel Prize and come up with the amazing discovery that women are meant to be mothers. Wow, that would be a breakthrough. I don't think that any university would allow that, any such study. It's anti-LGBTQ to say such a thing, that women are actually meant to be mothers. Not just physically, but they have their role to play, to look after children. Anyway, I discussed all these things in the Mothers and Masters, but if you think I'm being sarcastic today, wait till tomorrow, if I have another talk lined up. So I'm not against the idea that women should initiate. Okay, take a clip, put it on YouTube, just that little bit, you can do. Not against it per se, but as Srila Prabhupada said, this Professor O'Connell, that not so many, Srila Prabhupada said. There are in our sampradaya. The 3, Janava Mata, the wife of Lord Nityananda, Nityananda Shakti, the eternal, internal potency of Lord Nityananda. Then there's Ganga Mata Goswamini and Hemlata Thakurani. That's 3 well-known, not very well-known actually, but the 3 were there. And there have been others also, but they're in initiating lines that Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur did not give much credence to. In fact, they could be known as upper sampradayas. Certainly wasn't the norm, and isn't the norm in the Gaudiya Mat. So I'm not against that, but as Srila Prabhupada says here, not so many, and in fact there has been some shastric evidence brought to light in this regard from Narada Pancharatra, which in the detail, getting into the details of who can initiate it, said that women can do so, but only if they are Siddha, and Siddha in this context is described by the commentators and as those who are fully realized in Krishna consciousness. The present push for female Diksha Gurus within ISKCON appears to be actuated more by the mundane, feministic, equal rights agenda than by trying to understand what is our tradition. Srila Prabhupada spoke uncounted times about the importance of establishing Varnashram Dharma, hardly ever about female Diksha Gurus. So why emphasize something that Srila Prabhupada didn't emphasize and not emphasize something that Srila Prabhupada did emphasize? They're making female Diksha Gurus standard, normal, it goes against Varnashram norms. So against the Varnashram norms of establishing Stri Dharma, or the essential role of women within Varnashram society. And why did Srila Prabhupada speak about that? What is the reason that he spoke about that? He wanted to establish that. In this whole ongoing debate which has been going on for about 14 or 15 years now, it's often cited that when Srila Prabhupada was asked that can women be gurus, Srila Prabhupada said yes. But there seems to be some intellectual dishonesty in this, because I saw a video clip recently of one of ISKCON's male, sannyasi and GBC saying that I was present when Srila Prabhupada was asked, and he said yes. So I think it's time that we should institute that within ISKCON. But he didn't say what Prabhupada said after that. And Prabhupada gave the example of Jandava Mata. He said, but not so many. So it appears to be some intellectual dishonesty in that. And if we wanted to get into the details, this whole issue has been pushed forward more in a political manner, appealing to the emotions, rather than what should have been is that the whole issue should be considered from all different angles of vision, trying to understand the issues. There are apparently conflicting statements. I didn't read another statement from Srila Prabhupada, from his books, no less, which is considered the main evidence among all of Srila Prabhupada's teachings. From the Srimad Bhagavatam 4th canto, Srila Prabhupada wrote, according to Shastric injunctions, there is no difference between Shiksha Guru and Diksha Guru. And generally the Shiksha Guru later on becomes the Diksha Guru. Suniti, however, being a woman, and specifically his mother, could not become Dhruva Maharaj's Diksha Guru. So here the point is that because Suniti was a woman, she couldn't become Dhruva Maharaj's Diksha Guru. So that is a strong evidence that women should not become Diksha Gurus. Now, a solution to this problem has been proposed that, well, that was Satya Yuga and women couldn't become Diksha Gurus then, but in Kali Yuga they can. What's the logic there? I don't follow. You'd think, if anything, you'd think it'd be round the other way. But it's a strange logic. But the point is that there are apparently contradictory statements or positions given by Srila Prabhupada himself. So it requires that all of these be cool-headedly discussed at length. There should be standards established as far as possible for hermeneutical standards, which means methodology for interpreting and understanding the teachings of Guru, Sadhu and Shastra. But that has not been done. There's been no attempt at that, of any open discussion. So that in itself is disappointing and dangerous, that it seems that the open discussion, cool-headed discussion is not wanted. We find in the Roman Catholic tradition that twice in the history of the Roman Catholic Church, the leaders, to a large extent, they stopped everything for years on end and sat and discussed various issues. And therefore we had the First Vatican Council and the Second Vatican Council, which went on for years. The Buddhist Councils also came together. There have been Buddhist councils which came together shortly after the disappearance of Buddha, and later on just to ratify and solidify within themselves the understanding of the Buddha's teachings. Regarding the Parakya, Svakya question within Gauriya Vaishnavism, which is the correct position, because there, even among our Gauriya Acharyas, there appears to be a difference. Do we accept that Krishna's pastimes in Vrindavan with the gopis, their activities, the Parakya bhav, the understanding that Krishna is performing pastimes with others' wives, is that the highest understanding or proper understanding, or is Swakya bhav, that actually Krishna is married to them and it's all very moral and good? So that was a big controversy, and at one point the leaders of the two camps came together for months together and discussed it all. And they came to a conclusion. And the Svakyavadis surrendered and said, okay, we've studied all the positions being presented to us, we've argued, we lost, and we're giving up that position. They were intellectually honest enough to do that. That's why there are no Svakyavadis around today, at least not in what we might call the Orthodox Gauriya tradition. So there should be elaborate public discussion before bringing in something which is going to radically change the tenor of the Krishna conscious movement and have ramifications, consequences, which will last long into the future. One of them being that it'll be it will be more difficult to establish Stri Dharma and Varnashram Dharma. Or at least or the possibility that this will be a major consequence. It hasn't been discussed, it hasn't been considered. It's something like when the first atomic explosion was made in the desert in New Mexico. The scientists who were doing that work, what was that called? The what project? It was called the something project. I just can't remember the name now. So they suspected that maybe the whole atmosphere of the earth would just burn up, and the whole earth would the fire would just spread throughout the oxygen around the whole earth and just burn the whole earth up. They weren't sure. They thought that might happen. But they said, well, let's give it a try anyway. See what happens. That's irresponsible, isn't it? But anyway, they had to kill those Japs one way or the other, so... and we're damn glad they did. Whoops, we're not supposed to say Japs nowadays. You have to be nice. So it seems to be highly irresponsible. They're pushing ahead with something without considering the consequence. Another consequence is that, well, how do we explain then, according to Shastric injunctions, there is no difference between Shiksha Guru and Diksha Guru, and generally the Shiksha Guru later on becomes the Diksha Guru. Suniti, however, being a woman, and specifically his mother, could not become Dhruva Maharaj's Diksha Guru. Well, how do you explain that? That's another consequence of introducing that. Some other considerations. The misogyny charge against those who don't go along with it. This is standard feministic rhetoric. I'm talking about now you've all had a primer in feminism from Bhaktiananda Tirtha Maharaj. So you probably know that it's standard feministic rhetoric. If you don't agree with their position, you're a misogynist. So that charge is against persons like myself who are opposed to bringing in as a standard policy anyone who's any devotee in a female body who has attained the age of 50 or so and has enough chutzpah to jump on a Vyasa-san and run around all over the world. Chutzpah means, by the way, means guts, courage, something like that. Brazen courage. Brazen. Well, anyway, you're supposed to be translating, so if you don't know the word, it's not my fault. So, another of their... Yeah, if we say it's misogyny, then all our previous acharyas were misogynistic. Vyasadeva was a misogynist. It's a very heavy thing to say, because it's not that I jumped up and from somewhere and just started spouting these things, or others just spout, but we're seeing what's the tradition. What's in Shastra? Now it's stated also that we require this for preaching. We can't preach properly. People won't like us if we don't do this. The counter-argument could be put, well, if we say that it's not good for preaching in America, then what about in the Islamic world? We have to preach in the Islamic world also, right? Won't go down very well in the Islamic world. What about in China? Won't go down well there. What about in Russia? Won't go down well in Russia. Russia is not a feministic society. They have enough sense not to just... They're very cautious about bringing in all these things that... Americanization of the world. It wouldn't be good for preaching in Africa, anywhere in Africa, and in most of Asia, among traditional Indians, or even for many people in America. It's not that everyone in America is a rabid feminist. And there's evidence that that younger people, increasingly in America, including many women, are they call themselves anti-feminists. So the argument that it's required for preaching is it's not such a strong one as it might seem to those whose vision only extends within America. Of course, there is the syndrome of thinking that, well, we have to cater to America. But then if we have to cater to America for preaching, what's the main thing needed for preaching in America? It's not female Diksha Guru. Harinam, book distribution. You have to get out and do preaching. It's not just by that as soon as we appoint women gurus, all of a sudden the whole of America becomes Krishna conscious. And people say, oh, I always wanted to be Krishna conscious, but I was hung up about that, so okay. And they start breaking the doors down, and we have to have queues for people to come in and get initiated. It's not going to happen like that. Another point, that this has been introduced to the GBC, I think first of all 14 years ago, something like that. And it was rejected by the... Still, a majority of the GBCs are, according to certain members of our society, misogynistic, because they rejected it. Now usually what happens, if some proposal is given to the GBC, they accept it or reject it, and if it's rejected, it's dropped. Or if maybe it's revised a little bit and they present it next year, and then but they just keep on pushing. This one, they just keep on pushing. If the GBC said no, then they should leave it, but they just keep on pushing. So, anyway, there are some thoughts from my side. It could be analyzed in a deeper way. It should be analyzed in a deeper way, because the whole discussion, actually there hasn't been any proper sober discussion among the protagonists and antagonists regarding this issue, but it's mostly on the emotional platform, not even very deeply considered. So the minimum point I would like to make is that nothing should be instituted without such a major change should not be instituted without very deep consideration. And overall, I would say it could be, but first of all, let's establish what Prabhupada wanted, Varnashram Dharma, and then we can see about some exceptions. But first we should do that. So that's my position overall. So there it is, for what it's worth, and who gives a damn anyway. But anyway, I thought I'd say it. So there it is. Nothing new from my side. I've said all these things many times. Okay, any questions or comments about that? Yeah, I saw Radhe Govinda's hand first, so I'll ask him.
What about this argument that the FDG proponents in ISKCON come up with this quote from Srimad Bhagavatam purport? They go back to the original unedited and say that...
Go back to the original unedited, but that doesn't... I've seen that, and there's nothing in it which changes the meaning. Or what do they say? That the wording is slightly different. Well, that's why it's edited, right? It doesn't seem to be a very strong argument, and it's.
Both words are mentioned there, mother and woman.
Yeah.
Just in different.
Yeah.
Order.
Mm. It's just they're coming up with whatever they can to try to push it through. The thing that should be done is we should see what is Guru, Sadhu, and Shastra, and try to understand according to that. But what they're trying to do is, we have this idea, we have to do this, and we have to fit Guru, Sadhu, and Shastra to fit that idea. And if it doesn't fit, we have to interpret it in a way that it does fit. And we have to come up with things like Prabhupada was afraid of his sannyasis, therefore he allowed them to torture the women, and all kinds of things like this. Fantastic arguments. And mostly this Suniti, they just don't discuss it at all. So I brought in, right, in the future, I brought up the quotes that they give. Actually, I should go back to that. I meant to do that. I'm glad that I remembered that. That there is that quote where Prabhupada says, maybe by 1975,
It's a letter.
It's from a letter. And the main point of that letter was, you can see from the context, is to encourage Srila Prabhupada's disciples to read his books, to study his books. he said, maybe by 1975, all of my disciples will be allowed to initiate and increase the number of the generations. It's a maybe. It didn't happen. And Srila Prabhupada never again brought up this idea. Now, you could say, well, he did have some idea like that, but then this was in 1969.
He never implemented it.
He never implemented it, exactly. And as I brought up in my Mothers and Masters book, and I'm bringing up in some more detail in my Mood and Mission of Srila Prabhupada book, Srila Prabhupada's he changed in the sense that he implemented more cultural items, especially this separation between male and female, as the movement developed. In San Francisco in 1967, he first went there. He was very liberal in giving initiation. He didn't require men to shave no one shaved their head. There was no idea of shaving head. He was very liberal in giving initiation. Later he became much more strict, and he said that one who has got long hairs is not my disciple. He rejected them. So he became more strict. So we shouldn't take as the stand what Srila Prabhupada was very liberal in getting the movement started among the hippies, but we shouldn't take that what Srila Prabhupada allowed at that time to be the standard, because the standard actually is the Vedic culture, which is not hippie culture. The standard is the Vedic culture, which is meant for elevation, and the hippie culture is meant for degradation. So Srila Prabhupada pragmatically made some allowances, but then gradually, and some scholars who have studied, academic scholars have referred to his gradualism, but he gradually introduced temple programs, deity worship, Brahminical standards, and he wanted to bring in Varnashram, which I personally interpret as meaning that he wanted to get closer more and more to the traditional standards. Not that he wanted, it's very clear. He's warned again and again, don't go back to your hippieism. He was very concerned about that.
It seems that some devotees take as absolute some of Srila Prabhupada's statements, which were like statements of encouragement.
Yeah. I'm discussing all that in this book. That
Mood and Mission.
The Mood and Mission book, right in the beginning, I'm putting that Varni and Vapu.
Yeah.
They take their personal experience, especially those devotees who join very early.
Exactly.
Personal experiences with Srila Prabhupada, that is the standard. Although Srila Prabhupada himself established that his Varni is most important. I also established in that book that who knows Prabhupada best, because some of the devotees who spend time with Prabhupada say, I was with Prabhupada and he said this and he said that. But Srila Prabhupada said about himself that the one, it's a big discussion, I won't get into it too much, it's there in the book. But those who follow the instruction, they're closer. Not necessarily though, and he gave the example, some of my godbrothers, they had so much association. I only in one time, Prabhupada said, I only was with my Guru Maharaj 5 or 6 times. And he said, it may be that just like a bug is right next to the king, but he's sucking his blood. So he has very close association. Mosquito sucking the blood. So there are,
And it seems this conversation with Professor O'Connell, in my observation, Srila Prabhupada sometimes gave the statements. He actually didn't want to deal with the controversy, like with...
That's an interesting point, with Professor O'Connell. He just didn't want to get into the controversy at that time in that situation. When there was asked, can women be temple presidents, Prabhupada said, yes, but according to our Vedic culture, a woman she's never independent. She's always under the control of her husband, her father, husband, or grown-up sons. So she can be a town president, but she has to be under her. She can't be independent. And so, But Srila Prabhupada also did say that the temple president should be like the father to the devotees and the president's wife like the mother. So in that way, that brings up another point. Then among the 7 mothers, what is that? Atma Mata Guru Patni is the second. Atma Mata Guru Patni, Brahmani, Rajapatnika, Denu Datri Tata Pridvi Saptaita Matarasmita. There are 7 mothers. The one's own physical, biological mother, the wife of the guru, the wife of a brahmana, the wife of the king, the cow, the Denu, the wet nurse. That means your mother, you may be suckled at the breast by someone who's not your own biological mother.
Like a
And the earth.
babysitter.
So the question comes, then Guru Patni, what does that mean if the guru, the wife of the guru, what does that mean if the guru is a female? Then you have to, then we've got to follow Shastra. Okay, we have to have lesbians as gurus. We have to follow Shastra, right?
Well,
That's what it will come to.
is this Shastra or Chanakya Pandit?
Huh?
Is this Shastra or Chanakya?
I'm not sure where it's from. It's from the Vedic corpus. Once I asked one scholar, maybe, do you know that Sanskrit Ananda in Baroda? Maybe you don't know him. He calls himself Sanskrit. So I asked him, he quoted something, and I asked him, where's it from? He said, it's from Shastra. It's all, there are some, where's this quote from? This Sarve Sukhino Bhavantu, It's one of the most widely quoted. Where's it actually from? Maybe I don't know. Sarve Aramayam Bhavantu. So.
90% of Vedic knowledge is lost then. Somewhere else.
Yeah, 90% lost. But the fact that our acharyas have quoted it gives it authority. Exactly where it's from. If you read through all the Puranas, you may find it also. It's not Nigama Kalpa Taro Galitam Phalam. It's not from the Srimad Bhagavatam. Srimad Bhagavatam is Sarvavedeti Hasanam Saram Saram Hi Udahritam. It's the essence of the Vedic knowledge. But to fill in all the points, if we're going to have Varnashram society, we're definitely going to have to consult the tradition and the Shastras and so many things. Okay, let's ask Murari Gupta a question. You already asked a few things.
So history of ISKCON shows that many male Diksha gurus fell.
Yeah, that's a good point. If we have so many unqualified men, so why can't we have some qualified women?
And it seems that
So many male gurus fell. Actually, the attrition rate is gone down a lot for one reason or another. Probably, you never know, but those who are going to bloop out probably already did, and the rest are hanging in for dear life up to the moment of death.
and some of them fell on very...
When a guru dies, then they breathe a sigh of relief. He made it. Without too many scandals. Yeah.
And some of them fell on very grossly level.
Some of them fell on a very gross level. Yeah. Well, unless you fall on a gross level, it's not considered fall, and you can be practically a Mayavadi and so many things, but until you're caught with your dhoti down, then you're okay. You're a bona fide guru.
So it seems that we have unfair criteria because...
Unfair criteria. Yeah, it may seem like that. It may seem unfair. But then the Shastra may seem unfair. That it discriminates against women. These are called, the pragmatic arguments. But we have to see what is in Shastra.
Maybe we should have more strict criteria for males.
Here's a good one. if you want to be a guru, first of all you should be castrated. How about that? That's a good idea. Wait a minute. Maybe someone will take that. It'll probably be taken seriously. A few generations down the line. Do a Sanjay Gandhi. Sanjay Gandhi, the son of Indira, he had a program, forced sterilization. And the Babajis of Vrindavan were among those who were forcibly captured and forcibly sterilized. And yes, and Prabhupada said that if that means that there would be no need if they were actually following, if they were actually, what's the word, continent, they weren't having sex, but if they weren't producing, the thing is to limit the population explosion, which didn't happen because India's population has doubled since that time. But it was considered too much at that time. That was the early 1970s. But India's population has doubled since then. So if they weren't producing children, then there would be no need to forcibly sterilize them. And some of them were shameless. Prabhupada himself said, I've seen them. They shamelessly go with women. So, there may be arguments given, but it is like the Ridvik argument, that so many gurus have fallen down, so just go back in history and find something from Prabhupada which you can interpret to say that actually he didn't want anyone to initiate after he left, and Prabhupada would be the only initiating guru. Pragmatism. It's called pragmatism. For that matter, if you have Ritvikism, then you don't need female Diksha gurus either. But they must be having within the Ritvik camp, they must be, is it allowed to have female Ritviks? It's probably going on, I don't know. They have their own wars among themselves. That's supposed to be the problem. The solution to all ISKCON problems, just become Ritviks. But then which Ritvik camp? Because they're fighting among themselves. It's just like becoming a Protestant was supposed to be the answer to the excesses of the Catholic Church. But then which kind of Protestant? There are so many branches. Once you get into once you branch away from the authority and you try to institute things according to your own intelligence, then then savrishya yasya matam na bhinnam. Every philosopher, you can't be a philosopher unless you have a different opinion to everyone else. And so in Protestantism, there must be several thousand sects of Protestantism, because they don't accept the authority of the church. So then they accept what? They say we only accept the Bible and Jesus, but that means they accept their own understanding of it. Or you may accept Martin Luther, but then even within the Lutheran Church there are so many divisions. If you say we accept Martin Luther, I accept my pastor, my local pastor, he's my authority, like that. But then he'll differ from another Protestant pastor in the next parish. So it just comes to the mental platform. Once you try to, of course some degree of pragmatism has to be there, but that really has to be innovation, pragmatism, that really has to come from high-level acharyas. But not only does it come from high-level acharyas, but they also justify it on the basis of Guru, Sadhu and Shastra. They don't just say, well, I think this is the best thing because this, and this. The standard is the tradition which is based on Shastra. That is the standard. Shastra is the center. Guru, Sadhu and Shastra is the center. Otherwise it's all mental speculation. The real thing is that the devotees should be trained, as Srila Prabhupada so much wanted, to be actual brahmanas. In ISKCON at the present time, we think that brahmana means you got initiated, you've been around for 6 months or a year more, you get your Bhakti Shastra course, okay, or throw them a thread, and they're a brahmana. But actually the standard of being a brahmana. Oh, one thing I wanted to say, that how about all you all learning some shlokas, all you brahmanas, or you should learn. It's not just for India, you should all learn. At least you should learn at least 100 Gita shlokas or prominent shlokas that Srila Prabhupada quoted. There is a book called Srila Prabhupada Shlokas, which I asked them to rename it, which they did, because they're not Prabhupada Shlokas, they're ones that he quoted. The whole point was that he didn't claim them to be his own personal property. He's representing the tradition, not that they're his shlokas. So you get that book and learn. It's important. For preaching in India, it's very important. But for preaching among devotees also, we should quote Shastra. Otherwise, what do we have? Mental speculation. If we're going to speak, even especially among devotees, we have to quote Shastra. It has to be Tasmat Shastra Pramanam Te Karya Vyavastito. We should know. Gyatva Shastra Vidhan Uktam Karya Kartami Harhasi. Krishna says at the end of the 16th chapter of the Gita, after discussing the demons who don't follow the Shastra, that one should act according, one should know what is in Shastra, what is Shastra Pramana, and one should know what is Shastra Pramana. Pramana means, translated as evidence, or the standard authority. We should know what that is and act accordingly. It's important, you should know, should be quoted. As Srila Prabhupada did. As all the acharyas do. Otherwise we come to mental speculation, one opinion against another. And say something, yeah.
I have a question. Now, since your generation is the first generation after Srila Prabhupada.
Yeah, our generation, Prabhupada, and we're
disciples of Srila Prabhupada.
Soon.
Yes, so.
Yes.
If we're not gone already, we're gone. One way is Yadgatbana Nivartante, and another is gone, off.
Yes, I wonder how much authority and a license a generation of Srila Prabhupada's disciple has to make such a major, because I think this is a major change. It's not
That's
just
a very important point. We're all going to be gone, and they're making such big changes, and it's going to affect all of you. You all have to deal with it, right?
Yes.
You'll be left when we're all gone and forgotten.
Some people, they will just brush aside this issue and they will call it as a social issue or something like that. No, we are bothered by that.
What's going on, as I see, the very important point you're raising, and there are so many other important points, they don't care. They don't even want to discuss it. They just want to ram it through by any means. Yeah. That's what's actually going on. You've seen, you're conversant with what's going on. There's no consideration. They don't even want to think about it or talk about it, or if there is any talk, they just give some specious reply or avoid it, and somehow or other they just want to ram it through. It's very inauspicious, the whole way of it's being done, or attempted to be done.
And especially considering that, I mean, if we see Srila Prabhupada's background, and he was raised in, his father was pure devotee. He was raised in this culture, and then many of, I don't know how the senior devotees can be so bold to even think about these major changes, which will as you say, influence actually the next generation and then generations
And
after.
It'll influence, just like these Sri Vaishnava devotees. They came at our program in January in Sri Rangam, and we're respectable figures, and they were asking, please don't do it because it will affect us also. Because ISKCON, they said ISKCON, I never thought like that before, that ISKCON's so big and the Sri Vaishnava Sampradaya is influenced by them. I never thought of that. I always thought that in some way, they're very senior to us in terms of antiquity. 1,000 years is no small thing. And also the fact that there are persons like that, Murali Bhatta and Lakshmi Tatacha, they generation after generation, they're people like that, born. We don't have any such thing. I mean, by culture,
Yes.
they're in a different league to us altogether. Even to the IT Indians, the city Indians. So, but they are afraid. And actually, what ISKCON does, we're within India. Our influence is more than we know. Just the whole Gauriya Math is also. They might not like to admit that, but definitely they're going to be influenced by what ISKCON does. So they're concerned also.
Because if we see our line,
ISKCON is supposed to re-establish the Vedic culture in India also, and sometimes it's just like in that Guardian article. The what's his name? Jordan something Indian. Italian name. He gave that article. He asked, well, what do you think? Because in India there are so many gurus like, I can't remember the name, Amma, Anandamayi, and this and that there. So, but he didn't understand. Actually, the person should not have really. It should have been someone who knew more about what he was talking about, because he really didn't know anything about the culture or anything. But he's saying there are so many. Within India, there are so many women gurus, but these are all, by the standards of orthodox sampradayas. I'm talking about the Sri Vaishnava Sampradaya, the Shankara Sampradaya. They don't accept people like that as bona fide. This Amma and who else is there? Nirmala Devi, whoever else is there. Sharada Devi, there are a few here and there. And then in the Divine Mother, Aurobindo's wife. So they don't accept that. It's not, if you say that we have to follow Indian culture because there's this Keralite fisherwoman who goes around the world embracing people, that's not the culture that we embrace. That's not the culture that we want to establish. Maybe in some of them do, because men and women embrace devotees in America because that's considered that you love each other. But that's not the culture we're supposed to be introduced. We're supposed to establish the actual culture in opposition to all the nonsense that these people are bringing in. That's nonsense. We can't cite those people as the standard for us. It's complete nonsense. We're supposed to give the real culture.
because if we see in our line, just present, 5 generations, we have this, we have Guru Parampara on the altar.
Jordan, whatever his name is, noticed that he went into this center in Gainesville, and there were the figurines of these of the recent gurus, and they're all male. He noticed. It's hard to get around, right? We have a list of 32 in the Bhagavad Gita. It's problematic, isn't it, if you want to promote that our tradition is non-sexist. It's problematic. There are attempts to rewrite history. I saw quite a few years ago there was some contention that actually Abraham Lincoln was a homosexual because he used to sleep on the same bed every night with some man. Of course, in the modern age, if you sleep on the same bed with another man, you'd think, well, he must be homosexuals, right? But it's not necessarily so. In that day and age, it was they probably didn't even think of it. So attempts to rewrite history. Very insidious, very dishonest, the whole attempt. Okay, anything else, Radhe Govinda? You wanted to say something? We'll get back to you.
This argument presented that if you don't want female Diksha Gurus in ISKCON, you're a misogynist, or a woman.
Female Diksha Gurus in ISKCON, you're a misogynist.
A woman.
It's a contention. It's just said. It's not backed up by any argument. It's a case of Satyadvait Dharshjameva hi. In Bhagavatam says in Kali Yuga, if you just assert something, then that's taken as truth. Just like fake news. You say that Russia influenced the American presidential election. Whether it's true or not, you just keep on saying it and saying it and saying it, and in people's minds it becomes a fact.
But this so-called argument in philosophy or in logic, it's called...
Actually, if they influenced the American presidential election, that just goes to show how inferior the Americans are to the Russians, because they such a major thing, and they didn't find out about it till later, and the Russians are just running rings around them. So anyway.
Yeah, in logic it's called argumentum ad baculum, which means it's not an argument. You don't have an argument.
Might makes right.
You just insult a person, and you kind of dehumanize the person. Well, if you believe that, you're an idiot.
Yeah. Well, that's ad hominem argumentation. You just, you believe that? You're a fool. You must be a fool to believe that, right? That's ad hominem. Argument ad bachelum is you just, there's no discussion. You just force them to do it. Might makes right. No distance. Stick. Latyo shadhi, Srila Prabhupada quoted, which is the best medicine is a stick. Lagudo Pashavo Yata. Balaram said in the case of the Kurus, when Balaram went to negotiate about the abduction of Lakshmana by Samba. So he presented his arguments very nicely, but the Kurus, they didn't accept it, and then Balaram said, well, I tried to reason with you, but it's like trying to reason with animals. With animals, you just need a stick, that's all. There's no use to reason with such people. And then Balaram started dragging Hastinapur toward the Yamuna, and then they said, oh, okay, yeah, all right, your arguments are very good. So, it's just like animals, they don't understand anything except force. And I have heard it said that concerning the upper leadership of ISKCON today, that arguments and good reason and all this kind of thing, polite thing, doesn't work. If there's some court case or threat of bad publicity, then that works. So it seems to be the same thing. I didn't say.
Someone passed around the
Like Shudras, they don't understand arguments. They understand a stick. That's all. Argument, discussion, debate, reasoning, that's for intelligent, honest people, brahmanas, maybe kshatriyas. But for people who only, if you can get away with it, do it. That's for unprincipled people.
but this argument that Srila Prabhupada left.
Or money is the other thing. If they think you're going to lose, if you're going to lose some money, then if you're going to get bad publicity or some court case or something like that, or you're going to lose money, lose donors, those are the things. Those are the reasons we should make this. Those are the basis on which we should make decisions, not on Shastra or principles or any such thing. We may make a show of Shastra and principles, but it's only a show.
But this argument that you gave, that Srila Prabhupada made 11 of them Ritviks and then later on to be gurus, and they were all male. I'm sorry, but I don't find it a strong argument, because although they were all male,
it's not a strong argument, but it is a point to be considered. It's not a conclusive argument, but I brought it up at the beginning, saying that, well, obviously there's no gender discrimination, but then we should consider then, why did Prabhupada do that? I'm not pushing that as a major argument, but I'm saying there was discrimination. Why? We should consider what are the reasons for that.
all right.
Were you saying that as a devil's advocate? You don't find it a strong argument?
I'd rather use only strong arguments.
I just brought it up. If you see the context in which I brought it up.
Yeah. But I personally wouldn't use it at all, because they were also all white and all Americans.
They were all whites and they were all Americans. No, they weren't all Jews.
Some of them were Slogans.
No, I don't think. Let's see if I can remember all the names. There was Hridayananda Jayapataka,
Tamal Krishna,
Bhavananda. Tamal Krishna was a Jew.
Bhagavan.
Jayatirtha and Bhagawan. 9 out of the 11 were sannyasis.
Yeah.
Jayatirtha and Bhagawan were grihastas.
Yeah.
And who else? Satswarup. He was Harikesh, Kirtanananda,
Brahmananda.
Rameshwara. So we have only two Jews out of 10. And what's the 11th?
Brahmananda?
No, not Brahmananda. There was no question of Brahmananda. I said
yes,
Jayapataka. Okay, let's try starting again.
Hridayananda Jayapataka, Tamal Krishna,
Yeah.
Satswarup, Bhagavan, Jayatirtha,
Are you counting? I'm not counting this time.
Bhavananda, that's 7.
Yeah. Kirtananda,
Rameshwar,
Rameshwara.
Kirtanananda, yeah.
Anyway, what was the point?
Hamsaduta, was he there?
Hansaduta.
Yeah.
He definitely wasn't a Jew.
He was a German.
Yeah. He was somewhat admiring of
The big guy.
Herr Hitler. Well, of Nazism in general. It's said. So what was the point there? They were all white. They were all white, they were all male, they were all American. That was the point. They were all American. See the discrimination. None of them were openly... Oh, actually, 2 of them were gay. That's pretty good.
Oh.
Although they weren't advertising it. Pretty good.
One was a pedophile. Nothing.
Heavy discussions. You have to get back to Vishnu Sahasranam. these are issues. I'm criticized for bringing up issues. You should just let the GBC decide, and you just follow. That's all. That's you do. You don't think about these. You just chant Hare Krishna and be happy. And we may send a lesbian to be the Tamil president, and then you just follow. That's all. Don't think. Srila Prabhupada wanted brahmanas who are independently thoughtful, but that doesn't refer to you. You just follow. But even the GBC wants to institute something, they should be able to explain it to brahmanas, right? Otherwise they want Shudras. You just follow and don't think, don't discuss. Not auspicious. Okay, Hare Krishna. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Vancha kalpa tarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya vichapatitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. I got a jai after all of that. I may get some ajais from certain quarters.